Alrighty, so it's time for another viewer suggested challenge. This is going to be Minigunners versus the Demo General, Juhziz. So this is going to be an interesting challenge here because this is going to be the unedited version of Juhziz, not the leggy demo challenge. And the unedited version of Juhziz, like, it's an easier version, but because we're doing this with minigunners only, it actually is quite tricky in a sense because the only weapons that are available to this version of Demo General is going to be attack waves like every 3 or 4 minutes with like 7 demo bikes. That's usually what he hits you with. The other thing is going to be the Scud Storm. So the Scud Storm is going to have that 5-minute timer, of course, and it's going to be a demo Scud Storm, so it's going to hit a lot harder than the normal Scud Storm. Good news is no toxins. And also other good news is this version of Demo General does not use general powers. So I just got to worry about the bikes and the Scud Storm, but since we're only doing minigunners only, it's going to be hard because I have to use just minigunners to get past all of his defense. His defense, I would say, is probably just as good, if not better, than General Alexander's challenge. That's how tough his defense is. So with minigunners, of course, we're going to have access to the oil derricks and other buildings for capture, so we're of course going to do that. Now, in this challenge, there is going to be buildings that have booby traps too, so it's always good to have a couple of minigunners. One can like take the hit from whatever building has been booby trapped, and then the other one can go in for the capture. Now, another thing is, this is actually a very dark sort of map, so I have brightened this up in editing, so the hardening icons might look a little bit brighter than normal, so that's why. So hopefully you understand. It's just so you, the viewer, can actually see the action going on, because it really is a dark map to look at. Same thing goes for the Infantry General challenge as well. It's a very dark map with that one, and I have to brighten it up in editing too. So my game plan starting off was to actually make a push to this southern area, so then I can set up as many Gatling cannons as I can, and I can also make an early capture on the arty platform as well as the oil derrick. So the oil derricks are going to be important here, so then I can just keep getting more cash to spam the minigunners. Now, if I didn't mention it already, I'm not allowed to use super weapons or general powers in this challenge as well, so we're pretty much just going to be relying on the minigunners to destroy Demo General's base, and we'll be relying on Gatling cannons to keep pushing our defensive lines as well. I'm going to make sure not to destroy any of Demo General's buildings, that way we try and stick to the challenge as closely as we can. Now, with our dozer, I am going to build a propaganda center because we can get the nationalism upgrade, which will increase the output of our minigunners even further. So that's the reason for the propaganda center, but we're not going to build any nukes because that is going to be restricted. And the other thing with the nukes is that there's no upgrades that would be really relevant to the Infantry General or this challenge either, so there's no point. So since I'm well defended at the southern bridge, my next plan is to get rid of the demo traps. So I could just move across the bridge with the dozer, but that's a little bit too risky, so instead I'm going to move my minigunners into each demo trap. So I do have a little bit of knowledge about the demo traps and their locations, so I can just run them into each demo trap, only sacrificing one minigunner, and then eventually I can cross the bridge with the dozer to then build more Gatling cannons, and that's going to push my defensive line closer into Demo General's base, and then eventually we can actually start making moves on his base defenses and defending units too. So when it comes to Demo General's units, he will rebuild his defending units, he will rebuild his defenses as well as his barracks. His other buildings he won't rebuild, so when we take out the Scud Storm, the command center, the arms dealers, things do get a lot easier once those are out of the way. So just like at the south section, we're going to do the same thing at the north. We're just going to use the minigunners to keep triggering those demo traps. It's going to be a much faster way doing it like this compared to getting a dozer to build a Gatling cannon and using the Gatling cannon to shoot the demo traps, or using the dozer to then clear the demo traps that way, because those demo traps are revealed. I think this is much more efficient, and the minigunners don't cost that much in comparison to a dozer or a Gatling cannon for that matter. So with the dozer, we can actually move him close to where the oil derrick is, and the game plan there is to build a supply center to gather more resources that way. I've also got a minigunner that's trying to capture an oil derrick, so we do get a hold of that one. So I got 3 oil derricks on my side. So because it's minigunners being the only thing that we're really spending cash on, and you know, some base defenses, spendage won't be all that bad. Now, I did lose my dozer because one of my minigunners triggered a demo trap, and the demo trap was within range of the dozer, so that did slow down my progress getting to that top right corner area, because there is also a resource pile there, but there's also base defenses and a bunch of demo traps as well. This guy is all about the demo traps. So I need to be able to get a hold of everything, including that top right corner potentially, because even though the spendage isn't going to be too big, it is going to be nice to have the extra resource pile, and then we could potentially like build a bajillion barracks and then hotkey them and then just do a bunch of minigunners all at once. So that is one idea that I did have in mind for doing this challenge as well. So with the dozer, I decided to move him to the top left corner. We'll get back to him in just a sec. Right now we have our dozer who's just finishing off this Gatling cannon. So with the Gatling cannon fully constructed, we're going to go in for a supply center next. So this Gatling cannon specifically was going to be for clearing out demo traps around the area, but also acting as a form of defense, because sometimes Juhziz will send some defensive units like quad cannons over this section. It really depends on how far into this section of the map we get. If we get to like the bridge area, then there is going to be a very good chance of him sending like some of his defensive units over to attack. Now with our minigunners, we're just going to get those guys to join up with the Gatling cannon, and this dozer, we're going to be building some scaffolds. So some war factory scaffolds, some Gatling cannon scaffolds, and if you've seen my videos before, I've said it many times, the generals that you would go up against in the generals challenge mode, more often than not, they're going to fire their super weapons based on cash value. Now, for this general, because his only moves are the Scud Storm and the 7 demo bikes every 3 or 4 minutes, I know I can set up those scaffolds much earlier on compared to what I normally would do in other generals challenges. So I've set up my scaffolds to bait out the Scud Storm. So once the Scud Storm launches, I can now cancel those. I can cancel the scaffolds and then move on. And I just got distracted because there was a worker in the top of the screen there. Just noticed that in editing. Not sure what he was doing, but I assume he's probably one of the workers that would build the barracks and the stinger sites in this section. Yeah, he's running because of that barrack scaffold. Yeah, I see it now. Now, the only reason why there's barracks scaffolds there in the first place, just so you know, is that if you build a barracks, then that triggers Demo General into building a barracks in the top left corner and the bottom left corner of the map. So you might have seen him put up a barracks scaffold in the bottom left corner much earlier on in the battle too. So now that I've baited out the Scud Storm, now's a good time to actually start building barracks and start spamming out those miniguns. So first things first, I need to be able to destroy Demo General's defensive units near the bridge. So I need to build enough minigunners to first off get rid of these demo traps, but also enough minigunners to be able to destroy the defensive units too. Now, I'm pretty sure that these quad cannons are very, very buffed. I would say like Prince Kassar GLA 2 buffed, maybe something similar to that effect, but I need to still be able to have enough minigunners to counteract those quad cannons. The rocket troops aren't going to be too bad. Each general is going to be buffed up in some way when it comes to units and buildings and like general power super weapons. Like they're all gonna have buffs like with their damage, their HP, etc. So I need to be able to have enough of an army to compensate for all of those factors. So we got rid of the first batch. I decided to try and regroup and then have everyone together for the next batch, because there's a lot of quad cannons, bikes, rocket troops, and the thing is there's a chance those demo bikes could do a lot of damage if they were to run into my minigunners. So that's why I wanted to try and regroup and have as much damage as possible at that given moment. Now what we're doing at this point is the same thing, just running the minigunners into the demo traps to trigger them. Now, I think my choice to try and trigger the demo traps to get to the oil refinery and oil derrick might have been a mistake at this given moment. I think I could have held off on detonating those demo traps. I think I might have been better off keeping those minigunners to try and deal with the defensive quad cannons that would get rebuilt from the arms dealers as a result of me destroying all of those units from just before. So that's why I think it was a mistake to try and go for the oil refinery. And in terms of cash, we're sitting on almost 20,000, so I really should be focusing on getting my dozer to actually set up some Gatling cannons to push that defensive line. I think that would have been the better move. So with the remaining minigunners, I was able to try and keep a hold of this bridge, sending more minigunners as well for reinforcements, and I finally got my dozer to start building Gatling cannons, so then we can reinforce our defense and get a good hold on this area. I did lose my dozer, and I also didn't keep an eye on the Scudstorm timer, so I did take quite a bit of damage there. I lost a few minigunners. But good news is, he didn't really target the buildings all that much. I can still use those buildings to build more minigunners, and now I can just reinforce this area at the bridge. And I gotta wait on my dozers to get here as well, so then I can start building the Gatling cannons, and then that way I'm guaranteed to hold this bridge for an extended period of time too. So with the minigunners, I'm doing the same thing by trying to go after the oil refinery and the oil derrick. So this is definitely a much better time to go after them, because I've got more minigunners there to hold down the fort, and it's not going to take too long for the dozers to arrive at that Gatling cannon to fully construct it, and also get the other dozer to build the rest of the defense to hold that bridge area too. So since there's no more demo traps, I move in for the capture on the oil refinery and the oil derrick, so I'll be able to make even more cash. And the oil refinery, it's not going to be too helpful because the only vehicles we'll be building are going to be dozers and supply trucks anyway. So with our dozers, I move in for the Gatling cannon so we can finish building that and move in for a second Gatling cannon. I also use my other dozer to build another command center, so then I got easier access to dozers at this spot on the map. Now with our minigunners at the barracks, we're going to move those guys in to try and take out the stinger sites and try and get a hold of the resource pile in the top right corner of the map, having more money to play with. There is also a black market that we could capture, and I'm just thinking about increasing the amount of money that we get, so then we can just build even more barracks, and then rather than have like 2 or 3 or 4 barracks to hotkey and use, then we could have, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 potentially. Now with the Scudstorm, it's fired this time. I kept an eye on it, so I tried to bait it out with a bunch of War Factory and Gatling cannon scaffolds, so that's going to be dodged, no problem. And because we keep building up the cash, we'll be able to bait out those Scudstorms much more easily with our dozers too. And another thing to mention is that if for whatever reason we bait out a Scudstorm and we fail to cancel out those buildings, we're still going to be able to recover pretty easily because of the 4 oil derricks that we've got on our side too. So with our minigunner army, we took out the base defenses, we cleared out the demo traps, and now we can capture this black market for even more money. And we can also get the supply area, so we'll build up a supply center and we'll go from there. But there is going to be another demo trap in the way, so I can't build there, so I ended up building my supply center in an area where the supply gathering is going to come at a slower rate. But with that said, we've got 4 oil derricks plus a black market now, so we're sitting very good when it comes to money. Now, I did have a couple of concerns, and the Scudstorm being one of them, and I thought, well, because we keep building up these minigunners, it could mean that the Scudstorm might go for the minigunners and not the scaffolds that I place for this round. So I decided to keep spamming the X key. So the X key sends all of your units to disperse in different directions. And so I thought that would be the safest play for me. Meanwhile, we got our dozer to build up these scaffolds, and I've got like less than 20 seconds. So I'm doing it with plenty of time to spare. Like I said before, if I was doing this against other generals, then I'd be, cutting this a little bit closer, because there is going to be a risk of the enemy general destroying the scaffolds before you cancelling the scaffolds, and that has happened quite a bit against generals like Cassard, sometimes against Alexander too, if I was trying to bait out a particle cannon. So it is definitely a factor. Now, even though I pressed the X key on all the minigunners, he still went for that secondary base. So I did lose quite a bit, but I might have increased the value of the barracks by sending enough of those minigunners to the barracks, if that makes sense. So I did lose a bunch of minigunners in the barracks, but that can easily be rebuilt anyway. So we got the dozers, we got the command center in place, so all we got to do is just build up a bunch of dozers and away we go. So even though we took the hit by the Scudstorm, it wasn't too bad. We're going to send our army over to the bridge. We're also going to get our dozer to build more barracks, that way I can bust out the minigunners much more easily and get them across the bridge a little bit faster as well. So we're going to send our army across, but before we cross completely, we're going to cross the bridge with a few and then trigger more demo traps. That way we don't lose our army to demo traps, and now we can actually make some moves. So we've crossed the bridge. There's still more demo traps as well that I don't know about, so I'm more unfamiliar with the demo trap locations inside Demo General's base and just outside of his base. Everything else I've had a pretty good handle on. Now with our dozer, I've crossed the bridge and I'm building a fortified bunker. So with infantry general, you get the fortified bunkers, so they'll give you some mines as well to play with. The mines isn't going to be too big of a benefit to me. It's just the fact that I've got a safe little hidey hole for my minigunners too. And then that way, we're still using minigunners to do the challenge. We're just keeping them nice and safe inside the bunker. That's all there is to it. So we'll let the bunker do the work when it comes to Demo General's defensive units. We did have a quad cannon that was trying to shoot me, but he couldn't quite get the shot off from those mountains there, so that was good news for me. Meanwhile, we've got our fortified bunker putting in the work, and that's also vetting up some of these minigunners too. I forgot to mention that. Now, I am sending in my army, so I'm sending them in knowing full well that there's still demo traps in this area as well. And I did also think, well, there is the potential where we could shoot the demo traps and destroy some of those enemy units as well. So it's sort of like we're destroying our army and destroying his army at the same time. Also going for the bomb truck too, because the bomb truck will set off some of those other enemy units and make things a little bit easier for me. So I took my eyes off the screen and I lost quite a few minigunners from my main army, so I'm sending in my backup and sending off more demo traps in the process. So I decided to retreat and keep the remaining 6 minigunners alive, and then that way I can have a bigger attack force for when we regroup. And it didn't take very long. It was just a little retreat, so then we'd regroup and get all of our damage together. And I want to go for this bomb truck so then I can do damage to the stinger site, and then we can move up and then fire on the one stinger site. And here comes the Scudstorm. wasn't keeping an eye on the timer once again, and because it was such a big army, that was going to be the most valuable thing that I had on the map at that given moment. So that does slow us down quite a bit. It could have been a lot worse though. So all we have to do is we just have to build more dozers and then try and re-establish ourselves on the other side of that bridge. Now he won't rebuild those demo traps. He will rebuild the defensive units as well as the stinger sites, so that does mean that some of the work that we've done will be undone. So we'll need to basically build up an army again and then make another push. Now, I did try and make a push with a very small army, so I wanted to try and prevent the workers from building those stinger sites as well. That way, I could try and make the push into Demo General's base that much sooner as well. So my small wave of minigunners weren't actually enough. We ended up busting out a quad cannon, so that took out a few of my minigunners there, and the stinger site was almost fully constructed anyway, so I wouldn't have had enough time to actually deal with the threat. So I ended up retreating with my remaining minigunners, and I got my dozers to cross the bridge. I wanted to try and attempt to build up more bunkers and Gatling cannons on the other side of the bridge. That way I could try and re-establish myself quickly without the need of minigunners. But he ended up getting the quad cannons out again. Now the quad cannons and his other units are going to have the detonate ability, so once we destroy those quad cannons, they're going to do serious damage to my dozers. Same thing applies to Demo General's rocket troops, so we do lose one of our dozers because we took out two rocket troops that were very close to that dozer. So I got one that's pretty much hanging by a thread here, and I ended up building a Gatling cannon scaffold a bit more off to the left, so then I could try and get at least some form of defense on the other side of the bridge, and then hopefully I could push a little bit more to the right defensively, and then eventually I could break through Demo General's defensive line with the stinger sites and other defensive units that might be nearby too. So I have managed to get quite a few minigunners put together as well. So I'm just going to keep spamming minigunners whilst we try and reinforce this new defense that we've got going on here as well. So with my dozer, I decided to actually build a speaker tower next to my Gatling cannon. So I thought it would be best to try and get my dozer repaired. That way he can actually take a hit from Demo General's units. Now I'm pushing with my minigunners, and not a good start because we lost a bunch to that demo bike there, but I really thought that this would be a good sized army to try and take out the stinger sites as well as the defending units as well. Now since he did rebuild the bomb trucks, it is going to mean that I'll be able to destroy some of those defensive units more easily. I almost let the Terry get to me as well, so glad I saw that at the very last second. And I figured we just try and tank some of the hits from the rocket troopers and the other stinger site, and then that way we take out one stinger. And we still got to deal with the quad cannons, but the quad cannons, since they're getting very close, they're detonating, they're taking out more minigunners. So I've only got 4 left, and here I thought, okay, well we've at least hold the stinger site, so we could try and make a push with our dozer and try and get a Gatling cannon up. That way we could try and prevent Demo General from rebuilding that stinger site that we destroyed. That didn't work. We didn't have the numbers for that, so I ended up bringing in my reserves, which I should have brought in the reserve minigunners much sooner. That way they could get to this section a lot sooner as well, and try and reinforce my army. But right now I've got my dozer who's right out there in the open, and thankfully the quad cannon didn't actually make any moves until I brought in my minigunners. This time round, the stinger site is very early on in the construction, so I've got a chance at destroying the stinger site before it's fully constructed. The bomb trucks got here very soon as well, so I was able to take advantage of that. So now it's just a matter of me using my minigunners to destroy the other stinger sites and try and avoid getting hit by any of Demo General's detonating units. So good start is to take out the bomb truck, getting rid of those demo bikes, as well as the Terrys too. So we've taken out all the stinger sites, and we've got our dozer building a Gatling cannon a bit further back. So that Gatling cannon is very important here, so we want to use the Gatling cannon to destroy any new scaffolds that Demo General builds for stinger sites, and then that way we can get into this section of his base much more easily. So I am using the Gatling cannon, but I'm not using the Gatling cannon to like destroy his buildings. I'm using the minigunners to do that. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got that foothold so then I can get into his base and then start making more moves against his stuff. So I ended up mentioning this before. Demo General does rebuild base defenses as well as barracks. So those are the only things that he does rebuild. So if we can take out his other things, so if we take out the palaces, for example, then it means that no more bomb trucks, no Jarman Kell if he builds Jarman Kell. Take out the arms dealer, no more vehicles. That's going to be one of the big ones. If we take out his ability to build vehicles, then we'll be able to really pick him apart by getting rid of his infantry, as well as the Gatling cannons being able to pick off the infantry pretty easily too. So it's this moment that I realized, oh no, I've lost my army, I got hit by a Scud Storm. So that happened whilst I was attacking the Demo General's base. Meanwhile, I've lost my army inside of his base except for one minigunner. So we're not doing very good on minigunners at the moment. So I've really been slowed down by that Scud Storm. So with the minigunner that we've got left, I decided to hug the right side of the map, thinking if I hug right enough, I might be able to keep him alive and he can just take out the barrack scaffolds should Demo General build more barrack scaffolds in that section, and that will delay the number of infantry that he can churn out as well. And we've also got the Gatling cannons. They're doing a very good job of keeping the Stinger Sight scaffolds out of play, and then that way when we do finally get an army of minigunners again, I'll be able to really do a lot of damage by rushing in. It is just one Stinger Sight at this point of defense, plus the rocket trip and the bomb truck, but that's going to be easy work. Now, we've got our dozers building the barracks very close to where Demo General's points of defense were, and we've got 4 barracks in total, so we'll be able to churn out the minigunners again at a pretty decent rate. And we've got quite a bit of cash, 17k, so we'll be able to build up a bunch just in an instant. So while I wait on my army of minigunners to build, I decided to get my dozer in the top left corner to build scaffolds with our remaining cash. That way we can bait out the next Scud Storm that's coming. So I thought about it and I decided to put a rush on my attack with the minigunners, because the minigunners could also be the target of the Scud Storm, even with all of those scaffolds that we just placed. So by me attacking right now, it does mean that I'm decreasing the value of the minigunners that we've got and increasing the odds that the Scud Storm will go for the scaffolds in the top left corner. Now, even if by some chance I forgot to cancel those scaffolds, I'll still be able to build up the cash again with our oil derricks plus the black market and any resources that are still remaining on the map too. So with our minigunners, I'm going to go after this army of infantry. That's really going to slow down the Demo General because he wants to rebuild his defensive units first. And I ended up taking a big hit because there was a demo trap. And here comes the Scud Storm, and I knew my army was pretty much toast. So I went to the top left corner and cancelled everything, getting my money back. So I guess there was a silver lining to that demo trap that we got hit by. And there goes the last guy. So once again, another wave has failed, but we did make some good progress. And if we do actually build up our army quick enough, we might be able to go even further into his base because there's less units and defenses there overall. So it's kind of a smallish army compared to other attack waves that I've done, but I had a plan for this one. So my plan here was to use the minigunners to go after the Stinger Sight. So I was thinking maybe we could actually build another Gatling cannon that's a bit more forward compared to the other 2 that we built, and this new Gatling cannon would be within range of the Stinger Sight that we're destroying right now. So that was my plan going forward. So then I can just try and decrease the amount of defense that Demo General will have overall. Meanwhile, the minigunners, we can go after the barracks, we can go after the other Stinger Sight. I ended up going for the infantry as well as the Stinger Sight, so a good mix of things here. Now, we've got one quad cannon that's going to go after my Gatling cannon scaffold that's getting built as we speak. Now, here's the weird thing. he ended up pulling away. He stopped shooting the Gatling cannon scaffold, so we did take a little bit of damage, but I'm fine with that. As long as the Gatling cannon is working, that's good news for me. So I can actually use that to destroy those battle busters there for one, but we can also use him to take out the Stinger Sight scaffolds as well too. And I've got 3 minigunners left. We did do a little bit of damage to that barracks there, but I really need to do damage to the arms dealers so then I can cut him off from those vehicles, and that's really going to be like the nail in the coffin for defeating General Juhziz for this battle. So there goes wave number 1. They did their job. We got the Gatling cannon up, but we got wave number 2. So we had a second army building in the meantime. Now this is going to be a little bit of a bigger army, so we can use these guys to take out the barracks. We can also use them to take out the other infantry as well. That way we can try and decrease the number of defending units left. Now it's going to be mainly the Terries that would be the threat here, because they would run into my army and do a lot of damage. So I want to try and get rid of as many of those units as possible. Even the quad cannons, because they've got the detonate ability, they can be a threat too. So I'm trying to move my minigunners in a way where we can try and avoid the Stinger Sights too. And I wanted to go for the arms dealer so then I can actually stop him from building those quad cannons in the first place. And we've got one worker that's trying to slow down the process, but we've still got enough minigunners on hand to actually deal with the threat. So there goes arms dealer number 1. That's a massive leap forward here. You have got no idea, but we did take a hit by another demo trap, so that's very bad news. So yeah, there goes another army, but we got 1 arms dealer, so it's progress. It's definitely progress. So after I lost that army, my first thought was to actually get my minigunners up as well. I was also thinking about Gatling cannons as well, because since we did quite a bit of damage to Demo General's base, I could potentially move my dozer more into the Demo General's base and build another Gatling cannon, maybe prevent Demo General from building the barracks scaffolds as well. I do have a minigunner that actually survived all of this, so that was definitely something. So yeah, I did make that choice to build the Gatling cannon. Now here's the thing, I wasn't keeping an eye on the Scud Storm timer once again, so I ended up moving my guys into the Demo General base, thinking if I move them in, maybe I can decrease the value of the area, and then that way they'll go for something else, because I just didn't have the time to set up scaffolds. I knew I had no chance. So the Scud Storm has fired, and it's actually going to hit that area, so I did make the right call by moving my army away. So I did save some of the minigunners, but once again it has slowed down the production of minigunners overall, so I gotta get my dozers back to work, build more barracks, and then replenish the minigunners that I've lost so far. So like, this is a very small army. I did make a push on the other arms dealer, thinking maybe I could get some damage in on the arms dealer, but there's like 2 Stinger Sights plus whatever units are churning out of his barracks, so it's not very good, and the Terry got me. So I mean, it's like I said, it's progress. I mean, the arms dealer has taken damage, and here I try and capture the arms dealer. Meanwhile, I got one that's taking out Terry's and the other that's trying to capture. So this is like my last hurrah at trying to get rid of this arms dealer for good. But quad cannon ended up running me down, so back to the drawing board. So once again, we're rebuilding our army, and I realized we had more minigunners on the other side of the bridge here, so we're going to bring these guys in. So my next attack on the Demo General is going to happen a lot sooner than I thought here. So I'm going to bring these guys in, and I was very confident that we could do some damage with these guys, but the main target that I've got my eye on is the arms dealer. I need to get rid of that so then I can actually make some progress. So we're going to take out these defensive units first. That way I can have easy access to the arms dealer. We could take out the palace as well, but that exposes the Stinger Sight, so I'd be leaving myself more open to attack. But the trade-off here is I am clustering my minigunners together, so if we do get a unit that has detonating abilities like rebels or quad cannons and we destroy them up close, then we could lose quite a few minigunners. So we ended up making our way to the arms dealer. don't care about the stinger sights hitting me. I just want to destroy this arms dealer. It's finally been destroyed, so now we can actually make our next move. So we're going to get hit by all sides with the stinger sights. That's fine. We got our target, and I want to aim at the stinger sights themselves. And then the dozer, he's nearby, so I could potentially build more Gatling cannons, so then we can take out the stinger sight scaffolds, should Demo General build more. So we did deal with one stinger sight, and now the second stinger sight. So we're making some good progress. We've got the Scud Storm and the Command Center pretty close by, and I thought, let's actually make a move on these two buildings, because they're going to be the most threatening after the arms dealer. So Demo Trap did take out some minigunners. I've got 5 left, and we're barely hanging on. We've got the capture ability still, so we can still capture the command center and the Scud Storm. There is no rule against that. As long as we use minigunners to actually defeat Juhziz, we're good. So now we move in for the capture. Now these defensive units, I think they're scripted not to go towards the command center and the Scud Storm, so I'm pretty much in the clear. If it was vehicles, then the vehicles would actually try and destroy those minigunners trying to capture the buildings, so I got very lucky. And so with the capture of the command center and the Scud Storm, it means that Demo General has no more things to actually attack me with. He's just got his defensive units and his remaining buildings to get rid of, and then we've beaten him. Now, his Scud Storm was almost ready to fire on me, and he would have actually hit my army, which would have slowed me down even more. That has happened a few times already, although it didn't really matter. I ended up losing a lot of that army to demo traps, so yeah, I got slowed down regardless. So I ended up using other tactics, like using GLA workers to build up Chinese barracks. So I ended up using a dozer to build the scaffold inside, and then use the worker to actually build it up, so then I can actually build minigunners from you know, inside the base and outside the base, and have multiple ways of attacking Juhziz's buildings. But yeah, there's nothing left to really talk about here. It's just me picking apart the Demo General bit by bit until we win. So this is how we did Paradise's Minigunner versus Demo General challenge. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I do have a playlist if you want to check out any of my other content. I'm Correctalo, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye!
We are victorious.
You were lucky this time, General. You could never beat me again.